That's the law.
Yeah.
There's no way to fuck somebody that hard, but there's so much push for it because there's so many renters. There's so many more renters. If you own the building and the building next door, and there's 400 units, there's 400 of us and one of you. Right. Who has more votes? The 400 of us. Which is the fucked up part about people not rising to the occasion and saying, yes, there's 400 of you and there's one of him. I'm an intelligent person. You're intelligent people individually, not as a group. You're intelligent people. You understand this person needs to be paid. Otherwise, this property ultimately will go back to the state. And you've seen what city and state housing looks like. Shit. You don't want to live in that, right? Yeah. So my opinion on this is the best option is It's time to pour some drinks.
What's up, everybody?
You're live. We haven't started yet, so I'm gonna start with a Corona. You gonna start with one of these?
I guess so.
I like drinking Corona these days. Are you gonna do some with this orange?
Yeah, I need a knife. You got a knife?
Cheers.
Yeah, of course this one.
Welcome to episode 17 of Sip Talk. Today what I want to talk about, surprise to you guys, is how things are going to look once we get up and running again. Because I actually think, I thought everything was going to go back exactly to normal, which I ultimately think it will, but I think things are going to change a little bit. And also I want to talk about just stupid shit that people are doing. So, cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Cheers.
I don't think I'm at the camera.
You're get right here.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. You can't see what's going on over here, but
what the fuck is he talking
right.
about? Okay.
I can't kill myself, I think.
So, but here's what my thinking is, things are going to start to slowly open up, and before we know it, and I think it's going to be slow. I think 2 weeks is not going to change very much. 3 weeks, people are really going to start venturing out, and before you know it, you're just going to turn around, everything's going to look the same. But what I'm actually thinking is, we're going to go through some weird quasi-futuristic plexiglass interactions with people between now and the end of 2020.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think a lot of this plexiglass that's going up is, I think a lot of this plexiglass shit is going to be permanent, not temporary. I mean, walking into a CVS where there's like saran wrap 20 feet around the registers, I don't think that's going to be real, but I think a lot more places are going to look like banks. And I think...
Especially the gym. I think those plastic dividers you've been seeing all over social media in certain gyms in Hong Kong. I think that's going to be a universal policy in most gyms.
This isn't working very well for us. So, Mike Andrews says hi, by the way.
Good to hear from you, Mike. I hope all's going well on Long Island.
So, and this is the stupid shit that I don't get, because that's the other, how things are going to look, and then back-ass for the shit that we're going to see. Because if you have a plastic divider between people at a gym, and then this person gets on that piece of equipment, are people really going to sanitize the equipment that much in between?
I think
or is there still going to be some sweat and bodily fluid that's exchanged, which is why you shower after the gym anyway, so you don't get ringworm. You're a wrestler, you know about that. Maybe not personally, but you're familiar with it.
Showering is a daily habit.
But I don't think that makes any sense. And how are you putting the piece of equipment in a 3/4 box? Are you, because then you're eliminating the range of motion of the machine if it's crammed up against another machine.
Sure. I think everything now is being done out of caution. But slowly but surely over time, these things that we're trying to be cautioned about are going to go away and go back to the old way of doing.
I agree.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I agree with you.
I think a lot of what we're doing now is going to become updated because of this. You know, for example, people working from home in some industries, you know, Twitter and Facebook and Google all said their people could work from home until the end of 2020.
I heard Twitter said that if they choose to work from home for good, they could. Which is nuts.
I think that we're going to see a lot of office buildings and stuff like that start to see a decline, because the reality is a lot of businesses, you really don't need to show up to work. And you know, when we're talking about a time like this where you can cut losses and create more profits, these are things that can be controlled and say, all right, you know what, fuck it, let's cut the lease. We'll take the loss right now, but over the long term, how much are we really losing?
Exactly.
You know, so I think those are going to be things that we're going to see change for the better.
Well, I've thought quite a bit about downsizing into a smaller office after this, but it's really going to depend on what our turnout looks like over the next 6 months. My concern is that basically the landlord puts us on notice that we have to pay rent, and our business doesn't go up enough because not enough people start coming in and showing up, which is just like any other situation. Like you have a restaurant that's allowed to reopen, but they have to operate at 50% capacity.
If that.
Which means there's a space in between every table, which is the most retarded thing I've ever heard.
I agree.
It just doesn't. They're not going to have enough revenue operating at 50%.
Yeah, no, they barely have enough revenue doing takeout only.
Yeah, doing takeout only, even with drinks, and they're selling a lot of these drinks basically at cost.
Yeah.
You know, we get that giant, because I'm sorry, but I'm not going to run up a $250 tab on a takeout order for drinks.
Exactly.
Whereas if I sat at the bar for 2.5 hours, I would. But I'm not going to, you know.
With conversation and everything else going on.
Yeah, like we're going to sit here and drink 2 or 3 drinks. At least it's going to be 40 minutes. If we were hanging out here for the evening, between the 3 of us, our bill would probably be about $1,000. Because we probably get an appetizer or something.
I don't drink anymore, but you're right.
Yeah, but on a normal situation, like if all 3 of us were drinking, that's kind of normal.
No, that's pretty normal. Yeah.
So, I will say the biggest fear for me is that business doesn't quite pick up enough where we go, and we know what the trajectory of business is like. That we have busy for months, and are people just stalling right now because of this, or are they just going to resign another year and just stay put?
I think it all depends on the season. Like right now, you know, California's talking about holding on until July 30th, and there's a good chance that New York may do the same. If we get out before the end of May, and we're back to normal, summertime is coming, and you can say what you want, but it's 80 degrees outside today, and this is most people I've seen outside in a long time.
Well, we'll talk about the landscape of things. Just really quick on that note, because we were talking about this when you ran out of the office, that it looks like this deserted island where everybody that's out is like basically the homeless and drug addicted population that's out there.
Very.
And it is it is disgusting. The population that's occupying the streets is literally disgusting. People just like basically dying because of drug addiction, laying on the streets. And we're not talking 6 or 7. We're talking 30 to 50 people in a 2 or 3 block radius. Like legitimately just laying on the street in the sun, in the shadows.
The post office. You pass by on 33rd Street.
Oh my God!
On the stairs over there, the
they're
iconic stairs, they are laid out. There's going
for
to
those
be
of
50
you
to 60 people there.
For those of you that don't know this, we're in Midtown, right near Penn Station, and there's an enormous post office here. It occupies an entire city block, and there are stairs that run from one end of the block to the other end of the block, and there's what, 40, 50 stairs?
Yeah, 50 stairs.
I mean, it goes up, you know, probably a 15-foot rise.
You could definitely exercise on it.
Yeah.
But there are, and I mean, hundreds of people can fit on there. But I would say there's probably anywhere when I walk, probably thousands could stand on those stairs. But I would say when I walk by every day, there's anywhere between 8 to 10 and 30 homeless people.
Yeah, I agree.
This is the best part. 10 to 30 homeless people just laying, like, disintegrating under the sun, sometimes even in the rain. The best part, though, is when you have a tourist that's just sitting there with their visor on, eating a sandwich. And completely oblivious to the fact that the people around them are literally like injecting heroin in the middle of the street. Oh God!
But that would be more of a normal time situation, because right now I don't think there's any tourists in New York. But
there's not many tourists here at all. You can't travel.
When I came down today, I was coming down Fifth Avenue, and Central Park was packed.
Well, that's locals, though. I mean,
yeah, but the point I'm making is people are starting to go outside.
Yeah, no one wants to stay put in an 80-degree weather.
Well, think about it though. If we have weather like this, when things open up, business will come back sooner than later. If we come back to business in September, we could just throw this shit away.
Well, that's my attitude.
You know, the year's over because we were in quarantine for 6 months. If we come back in September.
Well, so if we come back in September, and our typical business cycle, we slow down in the wintertime. So if we go back into a wintertime mode for business, we're unsustainable. We're not going to be able to, because we lose money in the wintertime.
Yeah.
We can't afford to lose more money when we're already in debt with the additional burdens of loans and some of them are supposed to be grants, but they may not be if we don't. So here's the issue that I'm running into right now with the grant. the money is granted to you if you use it for the right purpose, but it's loaned to you if you use it for other purposes. So if I don't use it for the right purpose, I'll have to pay it back. Rent and wages are something that you can use it for, but I'm afraid to put it all towards rent because I don't know if we end up going another month or two, but I have to use it in the first 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So I now have 4 more weeks to use this money, and we could be in this situation for another 2 months.
If not 3.
Especially with our crazy governor, which I have respect for, but he wants to save every life possible, which is that's not the decision that you make when you're in that role.
No.
You know.
But it's not even possible to save that many lives. I mean, I don't disagree that there are certain states out there that if they open too soon, the amount of pandemic that would occur from that would be catastrophic. I mean, if we just reopened like Georgia and Atlanta today, in New York City, in 2 weeks' time, by June 1st, June 5th, the hospitals would be so overloaded.
Well,
I think the state would literally implode and collapse. But that's a personal opinion. We are going down, and that's great. And let's continue to do that. And I think we'll hit phase 4 of the 4 phases in New York State by the time we reach the beginning of September. So phase 2 is real estate and insurance, and that would probably happen by July, between June 15th and July 1st. That's my personal feeling. I don't think we're going back to work any sooner than the next month, but that's my honest opinion.
I mean, there's now studies out there that have shown over 50% of people that have contracted corona lately have all been at home and quarantined.
Yes, true.
So,
but that means they're not doing a very good job quarantining.
No, I mean, you have to think about it. When you have a lack of vitamin D, your immune is becoming more and more open.
Yeah.
You know, a person of color, we already lack vitamin D already because of how much melanin we have.
Mm-hmm.
So when you keep someone in the house and they come outside to go grocery shopping or something like that, they're more susceptible to catching these things because they don't have an immune system that you would have every day being around the person that's injecting heroin and just breathing openly. Right? Because you're taking small bits of everything that's coming on in the air and it's creating this immune system for you.
It's like your body slowly, your body can consistently fight off germs and bacteria that it interacts with. But when you're home, constantly washing your hands and sanitizing everything,
there's no interaction.
Your immune system drops.
I was actually thinking that we may see a huge onslaught of illness in 6 months. That's you ringing, I think. Oh, yeah, we're not going to answer that one. How many times is your sister going to call back?
Who knows?
Yeah, all right. Well, maybe she'll text you from the watch, but hopefully...
What watch?
Oh, yeah. But what I'm thinking is that we may actually be building the weakest generation, just as a whole. This thought went in my head first, and then the fact that we may see an onslaught of illness in so much time. And I just think about it like this, you know, if you're a kid and you're encouraged to play in the dirt and go outside and stuff like that, interact with other people, ride the subway, and kids don't wash their hands. They put their hands in their mouth. They're ingesting germs. Their body's building an immune system to tolerate all this and fight it off.
Sure.
Now, if you wash your hands 15 times a day with antibacterial, which kills the good bacteria and the bad, and you don't go outside, you don't interact with other people, the second a German tourist gets off with a just common cold, not even a bad cold, and is in your presence, you're going to get deathly ill.
Yeah.
Because your body has zero tolerance. I mean, I am definitely not an antibacterial person. I never use that. I'll use regular soap, and that's it. But definitely not antibacterial. But I do think because people are going fucking nuts right now, that in 6 to 9 months, because just think, 3 months of using antibacterial every single day, right? And not contacting other people and staying in your house.
Now, there's this thing that's affecting kids, and they can't quite figure out what it is. Especially in New York, it's called Kawasaki disease, and it's showing some kind of symptoms of corona, but minus the respiratory issue, and it killed over 3 kids already, like toddlers, which now school districts in, I think, a few big states in America are really concerned about it because they're seeing it crop up in more than just New York now.
But again, I think that sticks with not going outside.
Agreed.
But we have to not just understand the numbers, but you have to understand math. And you have to look at it, like who's affected. You know, I would say that, you know, if somebody who's 80 years old dies, it's not that bad of a thing. You know, to a degree, you want to celebrate them and what they've done. But they were on their way out, and they've lived a full life at that point. Yeah, somebody conversely who's 4 years old, tragic, but not as tragic as somebody who's 17 or 22, in my opinion. Okay. Which I know that's nuts to think about. But my point is, I'm mostly talking about the 80 years old and plus category.
Sure.
But also just measuring the tragedy in each death. You know, you have to figure.
So let's get off this topic because we're not a healthcare panel here. We're not going to be able to quite diagnose who should live and die. But
no, but go ahead. Sorry.
I think that we should get back on track about what we talked about before, and that after a couple months and states start to reopen, no state is going to honestly think, or the federal government is going to honestly think that any restaurant or bar or movie theater or business is going to be running at 25 to 50% capacity.
Well, how does a movie theater operate at 50%?
They don't.
And what if you go with a date?
So I was listening to it.
You're gonna sit 3 seats apart?
No, but think about this, right? So there's a restaurant in Louisiana, right? Louisiana got hit pretty bad, just like us, especially with Baton Rouge. So there was a restaurant owner. They've had this restaurant that holds about 90 people in their restaurant. Their house is attached to where they live in this restaurant. Okay. And on top of that, the state now said today they can open up to 25% capacity. Now she has a couple small kids, and she's saying, I'm honestly not even sure if I feel comfortable opening a restaurant. I feel it's personally a little too soon because our city got hit really bad throughout America. And on top of that, how am I supposed to sustain a 25% without further safety net measures when I've been defaulting on loans and debt and not being able to pay my bills, and now I'm going to lose the safety net and try and run my business continuously after that?
That's where...
How does that even make sense?
That's where the banks are going to have to come in and figure things out. I mean, one thing that they started doing with mortgages is that they've said if you go in default 6 months, no big deal. You won't have no late payments. You won't have any days show up on your credit. We're just going to add the 6 months to the end of your mortgage.
Which is
smart because now it saves the banks from deferring.
That's the best option they have, but also they have employees they have to pay these 6 months, not 6 months 30 years from now. And that's the issue that the government has forced us into, mainly
with no solution.
Mainly, and I hate that this is coming out of my mouth, but not the federal government, but the state government has put us in this situation because the federal government hasn't done anything. So it's really on the state to pay us back as New Yorkers, and not on the federal to bail us out. But New York State's out of money.
Yeah.
New York State's out of money, so
Many
it's not
states
going
are
to
out of
happen.
money.
So they're going to have to request a bailout. But I mean, my thing is just, I really feel like we're going to have a Great Depression type period, where only very few people, and in this current time, more than they did during the Great Depression, but there's only going to be a few that stick this out. I would say 30 to 40%.
You know,
maybe
thought
higher.
About that, but the thing I thought about is too is from a flip side, because it's affecting everybody from industries down to personal people. I also could see an influx in a lot of different business types, like retail, for example. No one's been able to go and actually shop, right? I could see that having a huge influx when doors open back up.
But same thing with real estate. And that's what we're hoping for.
But you know what, though? Here's the thing. Typically, why we have lower business in the winter months is because we have lower inventory. One thing we're not lacking right now is inventory.
I think we may have a decent winter for that reason.
I think we're just going to do a lot of winter start date, spring end date leases.
That could happen.
We've seen it plenty of times before where landlords are doing 18-month leases in the winter. I could see it going back to that because there are those college students that have to move.
Landlords are being they're being very forgiving with they'll give you a 6-month lease right now. I feel like they'll give you an 8-month lease, they'll give you an 11-month lease.
Now
because they have so many vacancies.
Let's talk about the rental market for a minute though, because this is something that I've really can't seem to figure out, and I've brought it up multiple times to you guys in private. But now, forget the fact of unemployment for a minute. Okay, you're not paying rent. I'm sure most of the people listening right now are not paying rent, especially if you live in the New York area. How could you? You haven't been working for 3 months.
I am surprised by the number of people that are not paying rent.
Me too.
I think if you're not working, don't pay rent. That's my advice. If you're not working, don't pay rent, because you don't know when you're going to get more money, and you just sink it into rent. That's my opinion and almost my advice. If you are working, obviously continue to pay rent, because that's you're an asshole if you don't, kind of. I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
But I'm trying not to use too definitive language because my mind's not made up exactly. how I feel about this, but I heard that I said this the other day that 67% of Hudson Yards didn't pay their rent. Commercial tenants. I imagine that not much of our building has paid their rents.
Have you heard anything from your landlord since?
Yeah, they reach out to me once a week and ask for rent. We have the waste company that takes the garbage from this building, reaching out for me for billing. And I'm like, I actually emailed you guys back in March, telling you that we weren't operational, we weren't producing waste, and we didn't have any revenue, so we can't pay you. So you want to put us in collections now, you can, but that's the end of the account.
I don't see it happening. Honestly, I don't.
Well, every judge is in the future is going to side, because the thing is, you're going to have so many cases, you're going to have to side on the weaker end, on the runner, basically.
So that's kind of be my big question to both of you, and I'm curious, and I'm going to stay pretty silent on this, but the question is, most tenants live somewhat at their means or a little bit above living in New York City. Is that a fair statement?
In New York City,
The
yes.
majority, yes. The majority,
especially
yes.
in rent. Okay,
Especially rent.
we see it all the time.
Yeah.
I know I myself live pretty close to my means with my rent, right? So let's put that into perspective. Now, if I'm living at that point now, but now I'm told I got to pay 3 months in back pay when things open back up, my business hasn't quite picked up yet, I'm not on a salary, and now I'm looking at paying over $3,500 a month in rent, which is a huge increase. Now think about somebody who's paying $1,650. Now they're up to over $2,000.
Well, there's
how is that sustainable in an economy that hasn't come back?
There's legislation to use your security deposit as a back payment towards your rent, which is actually legislation that pushes back on the HSTPA, which says that you can't charge more than a month, because now those people who had paid more than a month would be in a better situation.
Okay.
Right? So they benefit there. But there's legislation stating that you can use, and it's not about commercial, which I think is probably a good thing, because if we want to move to a smaller office and we leave this space, I expect a portion of our security deposit back, which is mondo money.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
I could go out and buy a nice car for that. Even when we moved up here, I don't know if you guys knew this, but I had to give them additional security deposit,
Yes.
even though I had 3 years of good payment history. They still wanted that. I mean, I don't know where the legislation is going to end up, but I don't see back payment of rent as a likely thing.
So everyone's gonna have to be smarter.
But there's so much.
Yeah.
So, but here's my point: is people just doing stupid shit? Is the Cortez, the AOC campaign, just pushing for rent forgiveness? You can't. I think that's the worst idea possible. To just say, you own the building, I rent from you. You don't get any money. That's the law.
Yeah.
There's no way to fuck somebody that hard, but there's so much push for it because there's so many renters. There's so many more renters. If you own the building and the building next door, and there's 400 units, there's 400 of us and one of you.
Right.
Who has more votes? The 400 of us. Which is the fucked up part about people not rising to the occasion and saying, yes, there's 400 of you and there's one of him. I'm an intelligent person. You're intelligent people individually, not as a group. You're intelligent people. You understand this person needs to be paid. Otherwise, this property ultimately will go back to the state. And you've seen what city and state housing looks like.
Shit.
You don't want to live in that, right?
Yeah.
So my opinion on this is the best option is a state-funded rent voucher. Of course, the state needs to be bailed out first. But that you just got to look at it at a slightly more microscopic level, at a zoom of 1.5 rather than at a zoom of 0.5 or 0.01, which is what most Congress people and senators are looking at, is a zoomed out option where you only see the loudest people. Right?
Yeah.
And the loudest people obviously going to be the 400. But the rent voucher program, I think, is really the best answer, and I think it needs to be state funded, and then the state needs to be bailed out by the Fed. But I don't think we should be asking the federal government for funding for that, because I don't think it's fair. Because if we're asking for it, the entire nation is going to get it, right?
I think that's fair, and I think that I agree. Like AOC can push for whatever she wants, but you can't do that and then not offer relief to landlords too. Like, you could do rent forgiveness for those months, fine, but then you got to do mortgage forgiveness and utility forgiveness, and furnace forgiveness.
It can't be deferred; it has to be paid off.
Yeah, like you're gonna have to pay the banks off for the landlords. So I'm cool with that as long as it takes care of both ends. I'm not trying to.
But this is where I'm giving it the likeliness of the Great Depression, because you're pulling out Jenga pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
And at a certain point, the tower is going to topple. How much of the tower is going to be standing? After, I mean, if you pull out a piece from here, the whole thing's going down. You pull out a piece from here, 20% of it's going down, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to figure out at what point that's happening. I don't know where that is, but I think anywhere between 30 and 70% of this in a year are going to be desolate. 30 to 70% of the population.
Yeah,
I agree.
Because if you take the amount of debt that I left the wintertime in this year, which is well into the six figures, and then I have to take on additional loan money that I have to pay back, depending on what I have to do, I will be in debt more than $500,000 by the time we get to September. And if we go into a downturn, I'm not going to have the revenue to pay on the debt, right, and to pay the interest on the debt, and to pay for our current expenses.
And that's why...
And also, I'm retaining this money that I have, thinking that if we have to rehire everybody, which we do, to not have to repay them, which I want to do. I want to rehire everybody.
Sure.
But I need to have some of that money left over to pay these guys 2 months in until we get back up to speed. Because if I bring everybody back in on day one when we're allowed to open, we're not going to be transacting where we normally would, which means I'm going to be paying these guys out of my ass, right? Basically. Mm-hmm. Where is that money coming from? Which right now we don't have really any money, which is the most frustrating part. We haven't gotten any real loan money. I'm waiting on the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL, and that hasn't come through.
I've heard a lot of business owners in New York City all make the same complaint. They didn't get any of the grant or loan money that was out there. So that seems to be a common thing. Mm-hmm. I thought it was just like a one-off, but apparently it's very common. About 90% of people I know, 95% of people I know have not gotten grant or loan.
I agree. Just real quick, pause on that. Say hi to your mom.
Hey, Mom.
I don't know if she can see you. Lean to your left.
What's going on, Mom?
Hey, Linda. Hey, Andres is here, too.
Hey, Andres.
Say hi, Andres. Andres, hang out for a bit. We may bring you in just a little bit. He just waves a bottle of tequila. So we know he's going to stay tuned. Oh, Jesus Christ. Where did I just interrupt you on that? I'm really sorry.
Well, I don't know, but I'll go with this. I am tempting to look at this from an optimistic standpoint. I do think that we're going to see a lot of downturn. But with the downturn, I don't see the downturn actually being as negative as 2008.
No.
Or as the Great Depression.
I think it's going to be way worse than 2008. I think it's going to be way worse than 2008. You got fucked in 2008 if you own stock. If you own stocks. Do you know how many times in business I've had to cash out every stock that I had just to continue doing this business?
Agreed. But what I'm saying is, I think that a lot of businesses are evolving. Like even you just said, you thought about downsizing. Because at some point during all of this, you said, okay, hold on. Something has to change in the way that we do things. It can't continue to go this way.
I agree. I want to evolve, but my concern is not being able to evolve to protect the people that are here.
Agreed.
And have to hire everybody back on, which keeps my monthly overhead way up here. Mm-hmm. And that's as a business owner, that's a really difficult thing to make. I don't just want to say, hey, there's 109 of you that work here effectively. I'm going to bring 12 of you with me. 40 of you aren't full-time, don't really transact, you don't mind, okay? But there's still 50, 60 people that are basically just goodbye, right? I mean, we could do this business from my living room.
Yeah.
We have to change up a little bit, but we could totally do this from my living room. The problem is that while this is replicable in my living room, out of 109 people, I'm going to retain 12. I may retain 20, but of the 20, there's a decent amount of them that aren't transacting.
No.
Like they're the people that hand their license here that don't do any deals. So, and also the people who rely on having an office space aren't going to want to do business with me anymore. They're not going to want to stay under this license because they like the infrastructure and they're just going to go to a competitor.
But I think, again, even competitors, I think the thing is, everyone has to evolve. It's not a select few or a certain group. Everyone has to make an evolution. Everyone has to change it, how they're doing things. So because of that, I see it working out. And again, in more of an optimistic way. I do agree with there are certain things, certain fine ideas and fine lines that have to be talked about as far as rent and mortgages and stuff like that. Those are things that aren't going away, and they're going to have to come to light. Right?
But I think we're going to see a big drop. Like commercial rent, I think this is the fucking gut punch that the commercial landlords are really going to feel. And they're going to have so many vacancies after this, they're really going to have to bring down rent.
Well, and that to me is probably the biggest plus of the virus, is that we've been due for a reset for a long time. Mm-hmm. We've been due for a long time.
I will give you that.
And we haven't had it. We've had signs that it could happen, but it never happened. If it wasn't for this, now landlords are being flexible. Now they're dropping prices. But quite frankly, because there's so many New Yorkers that live at their means or above their means, and not because they want to, but just because, think about it. You make $60,000 a year, and the cheapest apartment for you is $1,750. You're not at your means.
Exactly.
And that's just studio. You're not at your means. So now, when that studio gets back into that price range of $1,500, it now makes sense again.
But
and that's what we don't have. We've had so much greed.
But it's not going to be that. It's not going to be that simple though, because your rent isn't going to go to $1,500. You're going to end up in court being sued for non-payment of rent. You're going to get evicted. You're going to have to rent something else. The next person's rent is going to be $1,500. I wish it was that simple. That they're just like, well, you can't pay, and we're at an 80% vacancy rate. We're going to drop you down.
I'm sorry. I would pay money for a judge to evict someone because they couldn't pay because they got the government to shut down.
But how long does that go for?
No, I disagree.
At least until 2021.
I agree with this statement. If my rent currently right now is $1,570, it's not dropping to $1,500. $1,750 is not dropping to $1,500. But I do think that if I go, look, I honestly cannot pay you any more than that. Take it or leave it. It sounds like it sucks, but realistically, from a landlord perspective, some money is better than no money, right? Like even if you had to go months without paying, the smart thing to do is pay something.
Right.
Well, I paid a month of rent on Monday or Friday. Or
well, even if you did, let's just say that for the next 2 months you couldn't pay a full month's of rent, but you could pay half. The one thing that it's doing is at least bringing your bill down to when it gets over.
I mean, I believe that my landlord for commercial rent and for my personal residence rent, they're due their money. And I'm doing everything. I've been in the office every single day trying to do deals and help people out, but I just can't do it. So when the money's there, but I also have to do the math. What if the money's not there for another 3 months? Because
which is why you shouldn't pay the full month. But if you pay half the month, you're bringing your bill down.
And I just want to say, it's not like we're not trying to do all we can to make money, but I filed for unemployment over a month ago. I got a letter 2 days ago telling me I'm finally due to be paid, and still haven't been paid yet. So
I got paid, and they're not back paying me.
Right, and they're not back paying me either. And I haven't been unemployed for 4 months.
I got my first payment today. My first payment today, and my car payment came out. So I lost my.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is why I don't have a car.
I'm glad I paid off the car before the beginning of the year. So the point though that I'm trying to make is that okay, so I'll give you a better example. So I'm in a situation where my lease is ending in the midst of this entire pandemic in another month.
They may not renew you though if you're not paid up to date.
Well, they can't evict me either. So what do they choose?
So you get a holdover tenant.
You're gonna be a month-to-month tenant.
Wait, hold up though. I really like this scenario.
I want to hear it out.
So when was the last month you paid rent? March.
March.
So you didn't pay April. You didn't pay May. We're May 15th right now. If this keeps up, you're not going to pay June.
No.
So effectively, you're going to be a non-payment holdover tenant. So you can be evicted for 2 reasons: non-payment and holdover.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to. I think what they're going to look at is they're going to look at the merits of people prior to this. So if you're someone that's been consistently non-payment, late payment, and you have a lease renewal up, you're not getting it. But if you're someone that's constantly paid on time and now this has happened, which has affected everyone, I see them working with you. Now, at some point, like Justin said, there's going to be losses taken, And the only person that should take a loss in this case should be the state, because they chose to be
the
conservative.
The state is the one that put us in this situation.
No, because they chose to be super conservative about the lockdown. They chose to be super conservative about the open back up. And the truth to be told is, we're in a capitalistic society. You don't get to go from capitalistic society when things are up to now this social communist society when things are down. Well, I'm not even gonna say social. I'm gonna say communistic, because the only people still getting anything right now are the top.
Right.
Everyone else is kind of vouching for self and trying to fit and live however they can. So you can't call it socialism because everyone's not being taken care of right now.
Hey, Arthur's online. Do you want to say hi to Arthur?
What up, Arthur?
Hey, yeah.
What's up, Arthur?
I do want to say
I think I got a lease renewal during all of this.
Right. Yeah, you did. In the early days, though.
And they sent it to me DocuSign because my lease was up at the height of this.
What was it? April 1?
And I just paid rent for the first time in 3 months.
So let me ask you a question. Let's say they try not to give me a lease renewal. Right? Let's say they go, we're not going to give you a lease renewal. And my attitude is, I can't.
But you're not moving, so
I'm not moving anyway.
You're there, and you're at the liberty of the courts. So
they're gonna get fucked either way because the court's gonna turn around and say you can't.
I don't see. At this point, it's better to keep someone in there that's not paying, but has the ability to pay something.
Exactly.
Than to put people out.
Well, but
because who's gonna replace me?
The
come on, seriously.
Judicial comprehension of what's going on and the output of their decisions is gonna be.
Tenant based. It's going to be completely tenant strong.
Yes, but it's going to be really interesting to watch happen and see. It's really going to dictate what happens. And of course, it's always going to be tenant based. Like that's just obviously there's more tenants than there are owners. So just when it comes to politicians, and legislative, that's all based on who votes the most.
Fair enough.
So it's. Yeah, but if I don't mean an owner who owns a condo. I mean, an owner owns rental property.
Yes, 70 and 30.
So,
which if you use that, then it's probably a lot higher.
It's higher. It's higher that way. But it's going to be really interesting. I mean, my thinking is just, what I want to know is what things are going to look like in 6 months. Where restaurants are operating every other table, and then every 3 blocks is another open restaurant because every 2 blocks, every fucking business is closed.
So that's something funny. I've gone on walks almost daily, bicycle rides, whatever, because I'm getting fat and sitting at home. I'm sure the rest of you all listening is feeling the same way I am.
I've lost 12 pounds since this. So
all right, we don't need to hear it, Brian. You already heard on my live that I give you a compliment. That's what you get.
Brian's looking good. Brian's looking trim.
I already give him a compliment. I'm not giving
Brian's looking trim. No, I think despite not getting a haircut in the last 3 months, you're doing pretty good. You're doing better than most.
Yeah, I refuse to come on people's faces. I go, my do-rag's not coming off, and my hat's not coming off.
So I just want to say though, I passed by 8 restaurants I know yesterday when I took a bike ride over 100 it was 12 miles. So I passed by dozens of restaurants we know. I saw 7 of them are closing down in business.
Yeah, it's just not sustainable.
But
literally I was watching the owner.
But that's one of my
putting his sign up by saying for lease, big outdoor space. I'm going, fuck, that's a great place.
But that's one of my favorite things to do. Is go to restaurants.
Yeah.
What's the point of living in New York if there's no great restaurants anymore?
That's a good point. What's the point of living in New York because restaurants and bars are a major attraction to me and a lot of people. So you can just walk outside. You can just walk outside. There's something to do. We can walk across the street.
We don't have backyards. So
yeah,
we could go to a restaurant that has a backyard space
or a rooftop or something like that.
That's what we want. That's what we go to.
So what happens when we see 30 to 40% of restaurants die out in New York?
Honestly, you know what happens? Something that I go back to again, and Justin said. The commercial real estate finally gives the reset it should have been had. I mean, think about it. I remember us working at Crosstown back in 2007 and seeing the same spots on 9th Avenue vacant that are still vacant today.
Not 2007, 2014.
14.
Yeah, that place. 2014. But the same commercial space that have been vacant are still vacant today because, you get 900 square feet and in Hell's Kitchen they want $15,000 for 900 square feet. It doesn't make sense. that used to be some mom and pop shop that used to sell T-shirts for $5 a T-shirt.
Yeah, and they were spending $2,000
in
month.
rent.
If that.
And now you're trying to charge $9,000 for the same 900
1
square
second,
feet.
just bear with me. You get a viewer requesting a little more chest hair from you.
Oh.
So,
But-
all right, I got you.
But you know what I mean. So I personally think that there's going to be a huge reset. There's going to be
But here's what's up though is that they're spending $15,000 a month in one space,
And
and then they have 3 vacancies next door.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way they're
But
going to
let me-
have $60,000 in commercial revenue ever.
Okay, but let me.
But
Not
that's
in
a
900
that's a
square
bubble. That's a bubble.
What
The
about
commercial-
residential? Is residential real estate going to pop? Because all right, so I have a
Dude,
sister.
So New York City wise, residential real estate was already going down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Or
now
somewhat
we're doing-
plateauing.
I think
We've
it's-
seen it.
at
We've
all.
seen it because you see, there's been more OPs, which are
Yeah.
just for the record. Anybody who's watching, OP is owner paid commission, owner paid, and it's usually 1 month's worth of rent. However, I think we're going to have so many vacancies soon that landlords are going to be giving 2 months
12%,
free.
15.
No, not OPs. 1 month free to the renter, 2 months free to the renter, maybe even 3 months free to the renter. But because nobody has paid rent, they're not going to be cash flush. They're not going to be able to pay OPs.
Ooh.
So they're not going to be able to pay OPs. My thinking is 3 or 4 months into this, right? Because
Yeah, I see what you're
OPs
saying.
typically incentivize the broker because it's owner paid commission to the broker.
Yep.
Incentivize the broker to push that property, which I mean we kind of do. But I think as an organization we always look out for the best interests of our clients. But yeah, if there's somebody that's going to pay and it's no fee to them, obviously we're going to push that
We're
to
going to
them.
show it, yeah.
But I don't think we're going to see OPs right off the bat. I don't think we're going to see them 2 to 3 to 4 months out because the landlords don't have the money on hand to just write us a check when we sign the lease, or even 30 days after.
Yeah.
And
I agree
even
with that. That's a good
and
point.
a lot of times landlords wait 30 days to write us that check to make sure that first month is second month
Paid.
is
Second
paid on
month is
time.
paid, yeah.
However, everybody's job, there's so much like trepidation with the job market. I don't know if we're going to see that shit happen. It's going to be a weird situation. I was speaking with somebody over the last week or so on LinkedIn, and
You have another hookah tip for that hookah?
and what she was saying
You
is
take the
that
tip
she
off?
doesn't know if renters are going to be willing to pay brokers. So that's going to be a really interesting thing to see because what she's saying is our job is going to be marginalized if we're only taking videos of apartments and sending videos of apartments. But a lot of people can't. Everybody that I've brought up in this chat, in just kind of in general conversation about renting apartments without seeing them in person, the majority,
Still go see
80%,
it.
still want to see it in person.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
You want
what
to open
agreed.
drawers, you want to see the view, you want to feel the vibe.
What I've seen in the virtual showing space since doing it is I've not closed one virtual transaction. The transactions we've closed have all been maybe I've sent you a video, but you still go see it in person. But
because
the one
people
thing
want that final walk.
But the one thing that has been working out is that if I do send you the video and you're really interested, you coming in person, you're 80 times more likely to actually close on it.
Yes.
But I can also say that I've had a greater good of people that have just like, you know what, fuck it, I want to go see it.
Mhm.
You know, I don't want to see a video. I just want to go see it, which is how we want to do business. You know, it just comes down to, are you brave enough, or are you willing enough to go out there and show that apartment? Are you scared?
It's
A part of
such
this
a
Corona
tough
thing,
thing, though.
there's a big part of this Corona that I feel was more fear based
Sure.
than there
That's all
was.
fear based.
You know what
it's
I mean?
all
Because-
fear. None of us have to worry about shit. It's the people that we are in contact with, babies and elderly, that need
Yeah.
to be afraid. And I have been very. I went and saw my mom for Mother's Day. One,
Same
because
here.
I haven't been in contact really with anybody. But my concern is for my mom.
Yeah.
And I've
Same
actually,
here.
it's been on my conscience since last weekend, and it will be for the next 10 days.
Think about my mom, or my stepfather, or my father, or my future stepmom.
Well,
I've
your
been around-
stepfather, yeah, exactly.
I mean, there are people out there that I'm incredibly concerned about being close to. I mean, when I saw my mom, she kept on gloves the whole time. She kept the mask on for half the time. We tried to hang out outside, which is, that's fine. That's probably the best thing to do, but it's still not summertime, so it gets kind of cold after about 6 o'clock.
I mean,
so it's
my
just-
parents work in the medical field, and I think there's a lot of medical professionals that are definitely at risk. But even still, the one thing that the last tests have shown is that it's actually been less people in the medical field getting the virus and more people staying at home.
Yes.
Which, at some point, you have to start looking at data and go, okay, well, clearly, the wrong here is being caged in. Not is it just
Well,
morally.
but
physically,
nobody's really caged in though, because you got the fucking streets open. You have all. It's. I
When
mean,
you're told
you're
don't
right.
outside-
You're right. But we have to have a more comprehensive understanding of what caged in is. And if you're
Agreed.
like
When
legit
you're-
sitting in your apartment, you're not going out every single. You can go out every day and have zero contact with anybody. Stay 6 feet way apart from
I mean,
everybody
yeah, when I
else.
walk my dog, I do it every day.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. The dog is probably a really beneficial thing for you to have right now, considering the current
Yeah, because I'm
times.
walking them.
And you've been out
you know,
every single day with the dog.
2-3 times a day. But with that said, I have neighbors that will leave packages outside the house for 3 and 4 days at a time, and then when they finally open them up, they're spending another 2 hours outside spraying everything on with Lysol. At some point, you have to say, okay, when when is this too much? You get what I'm saying? When is it too much? When am
I mean,
doing
I'm all
too
for my
much?
mom, who was in her 60s, spraying down the mail. Like, that's cool with me, as long as like she's not making a huge fucking ordeal out of it. But she's also going grocery shopping and like putting things in her car and bringing them home. I mean, when we went up there, she gave me she's like, I have an extra 60 rolls of toilet paper. You can have them. Like, don't you have to use a toilet? She's like, yeah, but I have 120 in the barn.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah.
In that barn, that's a scary barn too.
Yeah.
but that's my point, though. I think at some point we have to admit that we definitely overdid this.
Yeah, we did.
And I think the governor did what he felt was best in trying to protect as many people as possible. But the only way to protect people. But once you have decline, the only way to protect people now is give them their lives back.
The
Not
hurting.
trying
Well,
natural
to a
hurting of
degree,
the community,
you have
right?
to give
That's-
it-
You
that's
have to
what
give
they
life
do.
back.
Sure.
You can't just keep trying to push down, or hold off. Now you have to say, okay,
do. It's called herding immunity.
you have to bring it back.
Unfortunately, with herding immunity, there is a higher amount of casualties, right? Now, I feel like we've had two extremes. I feel like we've had the extreme of the federal government, which is just like, it's whatever. We're declaring victory, like Bush, mission accomplished circa 2002, okay? And then we have certain states that are really slow to want to open back up, and it's like two extremes. There's no real balance. So it's just like, yet again, in politics, which this has become a political problem, we just have two extremes on both sides, and it's just like, take it for what you want of it. But I think that personally, there's just no way really that seems to be a good way and balance there. I think we need more of a middle road. I like the governor's plan of a 4-phase plan of reopening. I think that's smart. I think that's strategic. Let's see how things roll out, every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we just continue to do that. But then, you have Michigan, which was just on full lockdown to the point where people couldn't even travel to their second homes on Lake Michigan and stuff like that. That was a little too extreme. But then I feel like the overreaction is also, you have the other side of that where people are protesting that they want their liberties. I don't know what liberties they're talking about, but then they all got sick. So it's like there isn't been this natural leading voice that's just kind of struck this tone of balance and how to react properly. And I think that talks about an absence of leadership just across the United States and just how to handle
Well, there's
it
no
properly.
leadership.
I think the federal
for the
government
federal
handled it best because they said, do what you feel you need to do for your state. And honestly, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
I think we disagree on that.
Well,
but
damned if you
fair.
do, damned if you don't. If you say everybody's on lockdown, now you have people like, but I want this, I want that. Like, my role in this is that no one's ever happy. Right? You
But
can't please
Can
everyone.
you hand me an ice cube in the fridge?
You can't
But
please
everybody's not going to be having this whole situation. It's understanding who you need to pander for, and you also need to make educated decisions that you're going to get a lot of backlash on, and then educate the population that are affected by that decision.
Sure.
That's not happening.
Well, that's why I kind of agree with the stance of, I'm going to let the states do what the states
Well, that's
feel
a
like they
smart
need to do.
idea.
There's nothing wrong with that idea.
Because you
But
can't take
advising the states and playing a role in that, because the states, just like I can advise you guys what to do with your business, but it's ultimately up to you. But me just saying I'm not getting involved, it's going to be the greatest thing ever. You got to reopen.
Well, there's
You know what I'm saying?
and
Like,
that's what I
your,
just said.
your team can do one thing, your team can do another thing. This is your first time in the office since when?
Earlier this week,
What, Wednesday?
Tuesday or Wednesday, yeah.
This is your first time in the office since when?
Since March, end of March.
Exactly. So, it's up to you. It's up to you. But we've talked about doing business. We've talked about remote showing. You guys
and we've
know that
done business on either spectrum. That doesn't matter.
It's up to you guys how you want to manage your teams and your own business. But I'm here for the advice, and I'm contributing, and we're going to work towards a collaborative reopen as much as possible. I'm also talking with your agents, when they need help or they want.
But unfortunately, that's not happening anywhere else. On the bigger scale, that's not happening.
That's my point. That's my point.
I'm all cool with state by state. I think that had to be happened, but because certain states got hit a lot worse than others.
Yeah.
But then again, like the laissez-faire attitude of like circa Bush 2003 mission accomplished attitude from the federal level, and then you have certain states that are like, no, we actually need real leadership. We need to figure things out. We need to talk about it. And then the fight of that has created so much chaos where I think ultimately it's put the country in not only an overreaction, but a severe PTSD attitude because of a lack of leadership.
People are...
And unity.
I would say there's a lot of PTSD.
Yeah, and that's going to be an actual issue. Like, that's not a joke. I'm totally serious. There's going to be a severe PTSD throughout the rest of the country until the end of this year, minimum. Like, there's going to be people who say, I don't know if I want to go to a club. I feel like I really rather just go to a local bar. I don't want to go to a club because it's too many people. I don't think you
want to go to a club, you're not going to want to go to a bar. If you're scared to be around people, you're just going to be scared to be around people.
It was, for example,
that's why back to damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, exactly. But what I want to get an idea of visually is what the landscape is going to look like. Are we going to have to put plexiglass? And I'll do it. I actually thought like this weekend maybe I'll go buy some big sheets of plexiglass. I'll buy some cutters, and I can come in and install them in front of everyone's desk.
So it looks like a jail cell?
There's just going to be giant plexiglass walls all throughout the office.
I mean, honestly,
is that something that's going to make the general population and the general population of the agents in our organization feel more comfortable? Because there's a lot of people. I'm going to text. You know this thing I'm doing with the texting, right? Mm-hmm. Where I can text 150 people in one shot. Then it's not a group message; it's individual. People are messaging me back, and they're afraid to come to the office. They're afraid to go to apartments. So I'm thinking, are those people going to feel more comfortable if we do this plexiglass thing throughout the office?
I don't think the plexiglass is going to last. I don't think it's
going to last either.
So to me, I look at it like this. Again, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Everyone's not going to be happy. I think when you step in an office that looks like a jail, that's kind of what you're going to get.
I think that's going to be the end of it.
You get what I'm saying?
I think if we have to do that here, that's going to be end of this business as we know it.
Yeah.
And there's no reason to have a 5,000 square foot office.
Yeah,
I think that's the end of it.
If you really are that nervous or scared or whatever, that's why you still have masks and gloves.
Sure.
You're having a conversation with people and you're both wearing masks.
Which we supply in the office.
Yeah.
We have masks.
And if you're both wearing masks, the plexiglass isn't helping anything.
No.
It's not preventing anything at all. So it doesn't make sense.
It's a placebo effect.
But then let me ask you this. What about a barbershop?
So here, perfect.
I haven't attended a barbershop.
How's that set up?
5 years.
So here's like most barbers that I knew were already using gloves when they cut hair.
Really?
That's become a thing.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never. I mean.
They were you.
Okay. Obviously, my bad.
But there's still a lot of barbers that aren't using gloves. But that's the thing.
I'm cool with a chef cooking without gloves on. I'm totally cool with that.
I would never be cool with that.
My point of me saying, first off, they're behind the door. As long as the shit is good when I eat it, I could care less. In a lot of countries, it's not deemed unsanitary to not wear gloves. You cook your food, you don't wear gloves.
All right, so let me ask you: if you saw someone putting your Taco Bell together and you saw they're not wearing gloves,
I'm fine with that. That's an inherent risk of eating other people's food.
Exactly. When you cook your food, you cook with no gloves. You open yourself up to just as much risk.
But it's a trust factor.
It's not a trust factor.
The fucking thing's behind the closed wall.
It's getting cooked.
It's behind the closed wall. You don't know how they tenderize your steak before they put it down.
That's why I don't send food back. That's why I don't send food back.
Like, it is what it is. I think the layout of things or the landscape of things is going to be different. It's going to be weird. But there's certain things that you can't... like some things are not going to last forever. For example, the 6 feet distance. I've seen now supermarkets have to hire security just to get people to say, no, stop here.
My God.
Stop
here.
Yeah,
I saw that too, especially
uptown. And but that's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable to have 12 people in a store.
Outside wearing gloves and face masks and getting upset that someone's within their 6 feet space, but then get back into their own vehicles with the same gloves and face masks on that are supposed to prevent all the diseases and germs that you're bringing. So you're bringing it right back to you.
Think about it like this.
Yeah.
Like this is.
So to me, that's the idea that people are just doing it because of fear, but they're not realizing what they're doing because of fear.
Now,
So Anna Maria is saying, who I used to work with back at Crosstown many years ago, the plexiglass is not going to work. Everybody still is getting the same elevator.
Yep.
I had to wait. I got in the 6th elevator car today. I had to wait 6 elevator cars just to get on an elevator.
Stairs. You only live 7 flights up. Like what?
No,
7 flights.
No, because the first floor is double floor. 8 I didn't know it was going to be that long. I actually went back into the apartment.
I mean, I live on the 6th
I was like,
floor
this
of
I
my
was
is
thinking
building.
about it in your building. I'm like, see, this makes no sense. How do you tell one person to get in an elevator in a building that has probably 20 units per floor and goes 40 floors up? Like, that doesn't make sense because, one,
But that's
if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to start pushing the up button, and I don't care if I have to ride from the 2nd floor all the way up and come back down. Well, if I'm on the 2nd floor, I'll probably take the stairs.
Yeah.
But, like, if I'm on the 10th floor, I don't mind going up to 40 and coming back down because the chance of me getting it just pushing the down button, when the person
50%.
when the person at the
50%.
bottom is going up to 40,
So maybe
And the
it's on
elevator,
40
the,
Maybe
I'm just on the
algorithm,
backwards.
the algorithms that the elevators run are start from the top, pick up as most people.
But-
So hold on one second. If I call on the 8th floor, somebody calls on the 20th floor, somebody calls on the 35th floor, and somebody calls on the 40, the elevator, if it's on ground floor, is going to go to 40,
Yeah.
35, 20,
down.
15, 8.
the
and
only
to the
way I'm
floor.
getting on the elevator is if I push up because the
Yeah,
elevator will take
exactly.
me up.
And guess what? Then if he's on the 8th, he's going to be on the elevator when everybody opens the doors. And
Yeah,
So let me just say something. I live on the 6th floor of my building. I never take the elevator.
I take your stairs.
Yeah, I always take the stairs.
before I hurt my foot, I always take your stairs. Yeah.
So is that foot still injured?
I'm
Is that why?
totally fucked. Yeah, yeah. It's not as bad as it was. It's healing, but I got a weird plantar fasciitis, what's it, heel spur type of thing, and it's been crippling almost. If I run, it's actually crippling after the run because it gets so fucking tight and just super painful. But also, like, I think I'm going crazy. I have like a weird ear infection shit going on. Like, I wake up in the middle of the night, half my head is in pain, so my brain was going to explode.
I haven't been able to sleep properly for a month.
I want
I'll be honest.
more distractions. I've been good. I've been up every day at the normal time, like 6:30, 7 ish, and then I just
Go back
don't
to
have
sleep.
anything to do. So sometimes I'll wake up and eat some food, and then I'm just like, well, I guess I'll just go sit back in the bed, and I fall back asleep until like 9 o'clock.
But what else are you supposed to do? What
I
are you
don't-
waking up at 6
But
o'clock in the morning for?
I'm actually embracing the shit out of it because
I've enjoyed it.
I just, for me, it's just this mental relaxation that
That I've
typically
never had
by 9 o'clock in the
5
morning,
years.
I have 15, 20 text messages that need attention.
Yep.
Right now, I just have fucking 22 TikTok videos forwarded to me from you
Yeah.
every time that I wake up. That's it. But there's no like pressing business matters that
No.
happen between 7 p.m.
It's
and
a
10
vacation
a.m.
nobody wanted, but everyone got.
But I'm embracing the fuck out of it for the same
It just
reason.
gave
Like,
me, honestly, it was a mental reset that was
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna say life was spinning out of control, but I
But
can
think
definitely
about
say
it.
we were going in the same direction for so long that there was many exits that I've been trying to get off on. That now finally we get to slow down and go, you know what? This is the exit I'm looking for.
My favorite vacations are the ones where I'm just like, fuck, I just can't wait to get back to my office.
Yes.
And like order a lunch and like just sit and just do work and go out.
Yes.
And just sit in traffic and be in a cab and just have that shit that I hate
These
day
are
to
things in New
day.
York City that you love.
But like ultimately, that's part of me. And I miss that. And I miss that
I
at
miss
the
that
end of
too.
the vacation, not in the beginning of the vacation.
Yeah, it's
And I'm
funny you
hoping
say that.
I'm hoping that feeling that half of the company or 75% of the company gets that same feeling. They're just like, oh, I miss being in the office. I miss the vibe that we had. I miss the
being
people that I see.
productive.
You know, the one thing
I
we
miss
were talking
being
about,
productive. Like,
and I think you were saying this a while back, but you know, the world itself, the economy of the America.
All right, we gotta drop a live call real quick and just pick back up on it. So we are going to end this. And
So we gotta stop.
no, hold up. No, we ran out of time here. So Ryan, you guys remember Ryan from Crosstown?
yeah.
He's saying plexiglass doesn't limit the spread yet because it's fucking air, man. It's
I
fucking
agree,
air,
I
and it's
agree, Ryan.
it's in the air. So, all right, let me jump back on the live here, and we will screen record, so we have something to edit and make work.
So I was saying, shit, what was I saying?
Welcome back.
You were saying just about the worldwide economy.
No, he wasn't talking about the
So,
economy. He was talking about the
that's what I was
refreshing
saying.
of the...
No. Well, the economy's changed. We went from an industrialized economy, you know,
Hey,
slowly
Lance
but
here.
surely we've changed over to like the internet, which has become more service-based.
Yes.
And what we're seeing now is there's a lot of people that work in service-based industries, right?
Yeah.
And with their large amount of service-based industries and a lot of service-based people, I think what this does prove is if you were in a service-based industry and you come back to work and you're still pussyfooting around or tiptoeing or you're taking it slow, it kind of just shows you wasn't really built for it.
Exactly.
You know, a lot of people want to test drive things before they find out the thing they actually want to go own. And, you know, how many people we know that get into real estate and never even renew their license or let alone even keep with it, even do the job for longer than a year because it was a test drive.
8 or 9 out of 10.
Right,
yeah.
it was a test drive for them. Now you have
Yeah,
these
yeah,
people
yeah.
that have been with us for a while, but we're still kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And, you know, Justin will hate this, but losing people is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm...
But it also makes a stronger core.
And
I know that's where you're
Yes,
going with it.
exactly.
I know that's where you're going
Exactly.
with it.
And
Because
what makes it stronger, you have less people to manage, less people to deal with, less arguments to be had, and you have more people focused on just getting the job done.
Lesser but stronger unity.
You know what I mean? Like, think about it. What they say, would you rather have 20 nickels or 10 dimes? Or 4 quarters, right? It's the same value, but you're putting more value now in the individuals that showed up to receive the value or get the work, right? You know, it's not bad that you didn't show up since March if you didn't have a reason to show up since March, right?
But he's been in touch with his team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's- none of this stuff is, but that doesn't change anything because we're doing things while business is on pause.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, when we get back to work, you're like, hey, I'll be in next month. Well, now that's a different problem.
Yeah, exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
But that's the problem that I'm worried about, and also like these everybody's watching. Hey Donna, Donna, tell me what your thoughts are on plexiglass. Would you go back to work if they put a plexiglass barrier in front of you? Because people are still breathing, and given they may not sneeze on your plexiglass and it hits the glass and not you, but they're breathing and it's going around.
Sneezes in someone's direction.
Yeah, that's
I just
Well,
have a
fucking
sneeze
rude
coming off
before
and you
Corona. If somebody sneezes in my face,
like if someone
I'd
just
punch
goes,
them.
if someone just goes, "Achoo, I'm so sorry."
But I can't wait to rewatch this episode where we talk about just the amount of people that it looks like a fucking battlefield outside.
It's disgusting.
I-
I clenched
I'm-
my
I'm
helmet
in-
the whole walk up.
I'm in-
Think about
I'm
it when-
embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to take photos and video of the people that are outside in their sidewalks. But it's literally. I understand that. I saw this guy. I've seen this guy for the last month that I've been coming in. Nobody's been working, and he's got a stub for a foot, and I feel bad. Here's what happens: is that these people have an injury or an operation, and they get put on a medication, and it's what's the
Amputee?
No,
Oh,
heroin,
opioid.
cocaine. Oh, opioid. It's an opioid-based medication, and then they get taken off it because supposedly they heal. What happens is their pain hasn't fully gone away, and they have a friend that's like, well, you could do this. Before you know it, your body's in pain when you're not using these drugs, and you're willing to take any drug. Now, this guy that I saw, he had a stubbed foot. Now, I assume this guy probably doesn't feel any pain when he's using whatever substance that he's using. Because we have a methadone clinic here, which is the treatment for someone who's post-heroin. If you're on heroin, a court mandate, you go to a methadone clinic to wean yourself off of it.
Would you just get addicted to methadone?
But you don't get it. I don't think methadone is addictive, but everybody else who's in and around the methadone clinic is giving you other drugs and offering you other drugs, which are better than methadone. So
For the pain.
for the pain. So this guy who's got basically a club foot, he's got a dead foot. It's been half amputated. I've seen the guy around. Today I saw his foot. He was passed out on the sidewalk, 150 yards from the front of our office, down the block, and his foot was this big, bigger than my head, on the end of his leg. And it was just all like oozing and shit like that. And I'm just thinking, like, this is exactly what the system is not like accounting for. The system doesn't account for this shit. And it's disgusting, and there's multiple. I mean, I know it's graphic and fucking gross, but that's disgusting. And the guy is obviously, if he was to be completely clean, he would be in so much pain from the fucking thigh down, from all the nerves
Probably
affected.
just walk into a bus just to end it.
Yeah, he would be in so much pain. But instead he's doing illegal drugs because he was on whatever drugs, and probably maybe at this point he probably doesn't have health insurance or Medicaid or anything like that.
No.
So but it's bad. But the drug system and the healthcare system in the U.S., especially in New York City, is not accounting for these people. It's disgusting, and I see people. We've been here for 5 years.
Which makes it worse. It's probably a vet.
Probably, yeah. This is the 5th year that we've been in this office, and I've seen people decline from somebody I see once or twice a week trying to score drugs to being just like fucking melted popsicle on the side of the street.
Yeah.
I know which one you're talking about with the melted popsicle. By
The
way.
blue guy?
Yeah.
The blue guy? I didn't know that was a person at first. I just thought it was a bunch of bags under a jacket, but it was a person.
But it's a guy who
So,
literally
yeah,
sits like this.
Yeah.
He's
Adios,
fucking-
Ryan. Anna Maria's like, that's disgusting. Xavier says, hi, what's going on, Xavier?
What's up, Xavier?
How's business?
I see
Xavier,
you're
tell us how
repping
business
Queens
is.
out there.
So, yeah. A lot of business to be had in Queens, a lot of sales to be had. Our business is getting such a fucking hit right now. But I think May
But
has
those
been...
willing to work are making it happen. I mean,
May has
just
been-
coming in and closing deals.
There's more people willing to make it work now. May has been better than April.
Mm-hmm.
April, we were actually hit 1% of revenue.
1%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
between 1 and
I thought I
2%.
did a transaction in April, but I did it on March 30th.
Yep. So
Good for
little
March.
March we were between 30 and 40% revenue.
Okay.
April we were at 1%. May we're probably like 10 to 15%. So
The thing is, the year was actually starting good, and I still feel that with this happening, if we can get, I think it comes down to if we can get back to business before summer's over.
yeah, no,
That's what's going to come down to.
It's gonna come down to the
Literally
summer.
that.
It's gonna come down to the summer.
Like if we have a good July and August, things will be okay.
We can. Honestly, I think July through. If let's just say we get back in July, I would think from July to probably about Thanksgiving, we're going to still be kind of up.
Strong.
I don't think things because again, you have people that are stuck in their houses with roommates they no longer.
Well,
want to
this
live
is
with.
what I've said to every agent that I did a video meeting with, because you guys know
People
that
that move back home.
I
temporarily.
message everybody, and I've been doing 15-minute clip video meetings every half hour for the last 2 weeks. This week, luckily, I've been able to breathe. But the last couple of weeks, I've been back to back to back with 15-minute video meetings with other agents. And what I'm telling everybody is, if you didn't like your roommates 5 months ago, you're ready to murder them now, and vice versa.
Yeah.
If you didn't like your apartment 6 months ago, 5 months ago, you're ready to jump out the fucking window. And if you were a student and you lived in, maybe you're from Wisconsin and you went to NYU and you had 5 months of this new lifestyle, and now
You're back in
they
Wisconsin.
cancel that and you're back in Wisconsin doing video classes, living in your parents' garage or wherever the fuck you're living, like you're ready to fucking end it. You want back in.
Right.
At your parents' expense probably. So, but point is, we're gonna have a lot of people moving. Plus, everybody's been on a hiring hiatus since it started. So all these businesses who actually have jobs to hire for
Well, hire.
and have lost people because people are tweaking out are going to hire.
Well, they also have the downsides too. That's insane.
Well, that's the restaurant industry, especially.
Erwin.
They had to be.
What's going on?
Oh, what's up,
Say-
Dad? So what's the plan for Memorial Day? You gonna take all of us in like refugees or what?
So Adam's dad's live. But I plan to go out there for we can even keep distance in your backyard.
I mean,
Yeah.
that backyard we could definitely keep
Yeah,
distance.
in that backyard we will have the space. So
What happens if we try to go to the beach or something?
yeah,
I gotta get a permit for the Jeep.
on the beach.
That'd be great.
Hey Kyle, man, what's going on? So what I really want to do real quick is, we've kind of touched and overplayed what I wanted to talk about to begin with. I just wanted a really good visual of what things are going to look like. What I wanted was a really good
Broken down by
visual
sector.
of how the landscape is going to look. Plexiglass, distancing, space, face masks. But what I'm curious if anybody who's watching this, Xavier's saying something right now. Xavier, hold 1 second. If anybody wants to add anything about how they think things are going to look in 2 months or in even 2 weeks. I ultimately believe that everything's going to go back to normal. Xavier is saying there are people that have no money out there. There are people that do have money and want to buy and take advantage of the people that have to sell. And that's what he's been trying to focus on. And that's accurate.
The funny thing, though, I thought about that when it comes to New York City. Manhattan specifically.
Manhattan
your average
specifically, but there's a
apartment
lot
is
of people who have a lot of
$3
money.
million. They're not hurting. They may be most of the people that have been trying to move apartments at this point are still trying to move the apartments, and they just want to get it off. They may take a small loss, but we're not going to see these 2008 prices and declines.
No way.
When I said it's not going to be 2008, that's what I meant by that. Banks aren't defaulting on loans purposely. They're letting them put it on the back end purposely because they don't want the defaults. The default is what's going to drive the economy down. So yes.
Well, true.
So yes, they have to figure out how to pay someone for the next 6 months that they didn't take payment.
But how do you parlay that? How do you parlay that?
Think about it like this: when the Fed's giving out 0% interest rates and you're still charging 3, you're not making 3 points. You have more money coming in.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, and the Fed's talked about doing negative interest rates, which why they're going to do it is to force the banks to give out money.
Negative interest rates?
Yeah.
I never thought that would be a thing.
Well, they're doing it in Europe and Japan. And it's stabilizing their economy. But the Fed
it's insane that you're doing a negative interest rate.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that actively as you're saying that.
Well, you're not going to get a negative interest rate. The banks will get it.
But that's insane.
The banks get the negative. Well, it's almost like a bond all over again.
Yeah, sort of.
True.
It's like a bond. It's going to come back.
Yeah. But, I mean, just the vice that's putting somebody's fucking mental health in. Just having to deal with loans and things like that is
the stress from unemployment alone.
Well, think about it though. If a mortgage loan officer was typically getting 1 point and you go to 0%, now you're telling them incentivize them to get 1.5 point, 2 points. Like, dude, you can get an interest rate right now for 2.85%. Like that's some of the best interest rates you're ever going to get. So if you're in a position to buy, you're going to go buy. But that loan officer is going to get you to sign up because they're going to make money.
I wish I was in such a better place right now because there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity coming up.
All I've been doing was eating less, working out more, saving money, and just chilling. Things I wasn't doing when I was working.
So quick question.
It's true.
So we get real quick, guys. So we get Tori. Tori says she doesn't want plexiglass. No one in her office sits that much on top of each other. Well. Yes. Yeah. They do. But you're not gonna. You're not gonna throw plexiglass between somebody. You're not gonna outline 6 seats worth of plexiglass like a fucking jigsaw, right?
You're talking about more so with clients.
Tori, I meant mostly client facing for the plexiglass. But I also don't think it makes sense to. I talked to Hussein. He's applying plexiglass in his office. I don't think it necessarily makes sense. You're protecting one person.
Not even that.
But barely.
Like, I think it just
placebo effect.
Not even that.
Sergio,
you have to think about the actual look of a space, right?
Yeah, of
and
course.
When you walk into a space, there's plexiglass is everywhere. You're like, the fuck? Do I have to pick up the phone and talk from the other end too?
It's fucking weird. It's weird. So, and just one other thing that we had added right here. Anybody that wants to say something, feel free. I'd love to. Ryan said he's got to go. But if landlords aren't getting rent, then how are they going to pay their rent? What do you mean?
Mortgages.
Their mortgage.
Yep.
How does that not cause defaults? It does, but right now, the banks can't foreclose on somebody. There's a 90-day moratorium as of some point in March or April. But
extension.
We're coming to an end, and there's now an extension on evictions. That is August 20th. For evictions, you sure?
Yep, August 20th.
So until more or less the end of August on the evictions, which is...
Like I said, I've heard a lot of banks were doing, they're just putting everybody's missed payments on the back end of their mortgage, which is smart, because you're still in a 30-year mortgage.
But like I said...
However long you're still in it, you're still going to pay the same amount when you start paying again. You're not getting any late payments. It's not showing up in your credit. You're not getting fucked. So now that person that has to sell no longer has to sell.
Right.
Which means they're not bringing money to the table to close. They're not losing. The bank isn't losing. There's so many positives to just saying, you know what? If you missed it, fine. I mean, you have car companies. I think I saw Audi or Nissan who was like, we'll give you a car and not let you pay for the first 6 months. And you can just start making your payments on month 7 because your first 6 months, we're just going to apply to the last 6 months of your thing. Everybody's saying, oh my goodness, but that's smart.
Yeah,
you're not getting your money.
But there's
in fact,
certain cases.
You know what's happening while you're not getting your money? You know what's happening? Is that your prime stays low. So they're making more money on the interest in the long run.
Okay, fair enough.
So they're still winning. There's no loss in this.
Except for the people that don't have that cash flush.
So this is something I wanted to bring up. And this is the scariest statistic I have read since this whole thing started. So more than 60% of the economy is held up by people who make $40,000 or less a year.
Mm-hmm.
Those people,
I believe that. I believe that.
Those people have not worked since March.
Say
Most
that.
of them are not
Say that one more time, just real quick, clear and concise.
Over 60% of the U.S. economy is built by people who make $40,000 or less and have not worked since March and are barely living on unemployment. And most of those people also have families of 2 to 3 kids.
Think about the circle
So,
that you know, the people
I
that you
want
know.
to
Hold up one second. That are earning less than $40,000, less than $50,000, that don't have big savings. I would say that's the majority of the people that you know under 45 years old. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's crazy that like your parents owned a home at 28, 30 years old.
Yeah,
right?
And they were doing it 20% down.
Yeah,
20% down. Yeah, exactly. Which is insane.
And still comfortable to do
and
that.
gas
too.
prices were what? 74 cents a gallon?
Yeah,
74
maybe
cents
$1
a gallon?
at the high.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember
That's
paying
high
under
tax.
$1. I remember paying under $1.
No.
So things have changed quite a bit, but it's stacked up against the current millennial or whatever's after the millennial, and
Gen Z.
yeah, we're in a rough place. So this is going to have a huge impact.
So, but think about people who are living right now. Let's say if you're making $40,000 a year or less, you're not getting the full amount of unemployment. You're getting something around like 200 to 300
No,
plus
you
the
get the full
600.
amount.
Plus the 600, but
No, you get the full amount, around 40,000. You'll get.
but what happens when that runs out?
Well,
They
one,
don't have savings.
unemployment can be extended. 1, 2. I think when you make this example, you have to take a step because you're talking about from a nation standpoint, right?
Yeah,
So you have to take a
over
step.
60%.
So you have to take a step back from New York City. For example,
I
I'm
am.
looking at houses in Florida, right? And I look at these houses, I'm like, dude, $2,000 a month, that's nothing, right? And I talked to a friend of mine, they're like, wow, you're really going in. I'm only trying to spend,
$1,100.
$1,100 a
yeah.
month, right? And I'm like, wow. I'm in such a bubble in New York City, right? Before all this happened, I was about to move to a 2 bedrooms and cost me $3,000.
I've
a month.
gone out with you. Your bar bill has been over $2,000.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Right. So, and I'm gonna go. I was gonna move to an apartment for $3,000 a month, and you're just like, all right, fuck it, you just gotta make it work, right? So the point of me saying that is, $40,000 isn't a lot of money, but you'd be surprised that $40,000 still gets you approved for almost a $300,000 home. And why I say that is when you take things that you put into perspective of where you live in New York City and New York State, which is completely just
So, Jake-
unaffordable all around, right?
Yes.
It's hard to really wrap your head around this idea. Here's a true fact that most people do not have more than $500 for an emergency. That's a true fact.
Yeah,
And with this
yeah.
going on, that's something I would be like, all right, I'm more inclined to hearing that out. But the family that's $40,000 with kids is at third. First off, if you have kids, you found a way to put something aside. You found a way to marginalize somewhere. You found a way to budget somewhere. These are things. It's the single person that has to figure this out. Because again, I have my daughter, but she doesn't live with me. But like Justin said, we'll go out and spend $2,000. I mean, I remember nights Justin not spending a shit ton of money, and then I go to Mexico the next day, right?
Yeah,
and it's
true,
not a thought. It's not a thing behind. But it's because there was no rationalization. There's a lot of money coming in. There's just a bit of it coming out. Probably more than I should be having going out, but it's going
Fair.
out, right? I'm not worried about the person. Honestly, I think if this has not taught you anything, it's taught you that if you were bad at finances and bad at savings, you better start fixing it. This is that wake up call.
That's true.
And luckily, you have pandemic paying out $600. You have unemployment still paying you the $400 or $500 a week you get. So now you're getting $1,000 a week, right?
Which is insane.
If you cannot save $1,000 a week when nothing is open, then you aren't attempting to do better. You're only putting yourself in a position to continue to do worse and do bad.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with you. I agree with
If you get $1,000 a week,
No.
you're like, fuck this. I'm about to go spend $500 and get some drugs. I'm about to go buy some alcohol from here, and I can live off $200 a week. Well, that's just retarded.
Well,
Maybe I should say that.
is
That's not the smartest way of thinking.
But that's different than, let's say,
Because that person that makes $40,000, just so we're clear, my first salary was $43,000. So this is how I'm talking about
mine's
this.
38.
All right,
No, I'm with
that
you.
person makes
mine
40.
was in the 20s. Fuck you.
Sorry guys. That person makes $40,000 a year, doesn't qualify for food stamps, doesn't qualify for Medicaid or any of that stuff, right?
Nope.
So as of New York State, they're still in a good position, and I've had to live off $40,000. Thankfully, I don't have to anymore.
No, I
but
did
having
my
to
first year.
live
It's
off
horrible.
of $40,000 in a year, there was a lot that you could do and still enjoy a life, even with kids. Now, in this, you're just stuck seeing your kids more.
Yeah.
Right? You're not dropping off at school. There is no break, right? But
It's
how can
constant.
you? Yeah, but how do you say to that person, I don't see the struggle. Now, if you make 20,000, 25,000, well, you're still getting food stamps, all this other stuff is still coming to you.
It's different.
So you're surviving. I
Yeah.
don't think anyone's in a position where they can't survive during this. The person I worried about was myself being self-employed. Was, well, damn, how do we get any money? But when they came out with pandemic pay,
the pandemic
and
pay.
when they came out with, the only
Thank
thing we're
God.
probably not going to get is back pay, which at this point,
Which I
you
think
know
is
what?
a little shit, though. I agree with you.
It will help pay the bills
it's,
off.
It's
I
a bit
agree.
of a gripe that, like, I feel like I've been unemployed for over 3 months, and
No,
like,
you've been on furlough.
okay.
You're
But-
an independent
but
contractor.
but
You've
like-
decided not to work, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Well-
sorry. But the point that I'm trying to make is I've made the attempts to get in contact. I got in contact over a month ago, and I have been trying several weeks prior to me actually getting through.
You and 6
And I'm
billion
not
other
allowed
people.
to get any kind of back pay. I don't think I'm alone in feeling like, hey, I'll take even half of back pay.
I agree, but here's the other
like
thing.
that's
here's
not
the other thing,
that's
though.
a little fucked
But
up
let's
for me to
fight
get
this.
nothing.
But now, fight this argument. You're self-employed. We shouldn't even give you anything.
Okay, even the salaried people aren't getting back pay.
No.
So you're-
there are people because Joe's wife got all her back pay, and she's on wages. Wages people got their back pay.
Yeah.
Well, the majority of the economy is gig and self-employed, so I
That's
think
not
that
a
should show
true
some
stat
kind
neither.
I don't
It
think
is a
that,
true
I don't
stat.
no, I don't
The entire
look,
involvement in
all
the
right,
economy
all
from
right,
2009.
Let's converge here. The point is you're frustrated you haven't gotten back pay. And the issue is the government doesn't have a direct message they're giving employees or self-contractors. That's the biggest issue. And you don't know what to do. And it's frustrating because you don't have revenue, you don't have income. And employed people who are now no longer employed, employees who are now no longer employed, have no income either. They're
But the
applying
difference
for
between
unemployment.
the employee and the self-employed is that they've been paying taxes, paying wages into those funds.
Mhm.
So now it's
I
coming
will
back to
say,
them.
I will say
You
that
never
at-
paid a tax or wage because when we pay our taxes, we just pay state and federal. We
as
never
an
pay
independent
Medicare or any of that
contractor,
stuff.
as an
Oh.
independent contractor, I understand the risks that come
Exactly.
with being an independent contractor and being 1099.
Mm-hmm.
That's that.
You know, but hold on. Also, the benefits that come with
Well, I agree because everything is
it.
pre-tax.
Because when
you have way
everything
more
was
write-offs.
good,
everything was way better
oh man,
than the person who was employed.
Yeah.
I'm not
So-
So
disagreeing with you.
for the first time, they just now have the upper hand that we've had for years.
We have a lot more to talk about. We can delve into this. We can go a lot deeper into the blue ocean. But right now, it's Friday night. I want to get the fuck out of here. Xavier's saying, wait, hold up. Back pay is not happening? Question mark, for self-contractors. Xavier, we don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
We don't know for
it's-
sure.
It's supposed to be, based on what I know.
But we
But
haven't seen
we don't know yet. So,
I haven't personally seen it. If you know someone that's self-employed that has actually gotten back pay,
yeah, I mean, you're
please share that with us.
yeah, you're looking at a room full of self-employed people. None of us have gotten it. So, but on that note, it is beautiful outside. It's 80 degrees. I got the bike here. Adam's got his bike here. Brian's been renting bikes lately. So I think we're going to take a quick bike ride, motorcycle ride out in this beautiful weather. And we wish you all that you have a terrific Friday evening.
Bing, bing.
Whichever evening you're watching this on, morning. We just
doesn't
wish you
make
a good
sense.
life. All
It's
right.
electric.
Adios.
Put some spokes
Bye.
in your wheels.